Hi everybody, today we're talking about the if clauses and which clauses, and so let me tell you what's an if clause and what's the main clause. And so we have two types of sentences here. One of them is the if clause and the other one is the main clause. If clauses include if or unless, and the main clauses are the other sentences that just give us the result of the if clause. And so there are four types of if clauses. Let's start with type 0. And so type 0 is mainly used for the universal truth, and so for conditions that always give the same result. For example, whenever if you add 2 to 5, it equals to 7, and it doesn't change under any circumstances. Or if you mix red and yellow, you get orange. It doesn't depend upon the situation. It always gives the same result. And so for that reason, we use if plus present simple and present simple in the main clause. That means we use present simple in both the if clause and the main clause. What about type 1? Type 1 means that something is true or something is likely, possible or probable, either at present or in the future. And so, here we have a wide variety of tenses that we can use with the if clauses and the main clause as well. We can use all the present forms like the present simple, present progressive, present perfect progressive, should or happen to, or any kind of present models like must, mustn't, can, can't, should, shouldn't, etc. And the main clause, we can use any kind of future tense. We can use will, we can use be going to, we can use will be verb ing, will have verb 3, and we can use the present modal verbs like can, like can't, and must, and mustn't, etc. We can use the imperatives, that is, do and don't sentences, and feature modal verbs. We have two feature modal verbs, will be able to and will have to. Let's see the examples of them. For example, we have is, the present simple usage. We have can, the present modals. We have aren't waiting, the present progressive. We have just finished, that's the present perfect, and so have been studying the present perfect progressive, or should or happen to, that's the present simple usage. And what about the future tenses? Let's see. We can use will and we can use going to, as I have mentioned earlier, or we can use will be verb ing or will have verb 3. And we can use present modal verbs like, for example, can, you can have a rest for some time. We can use the imperatives, for example, you can say don't tell him or wait outside. And feature modal verbs, we can use will have to, as in the example of won't have to or will be able to. Is it possible, normally as a Turkish person, when we think about what can we use, you say, oh, we can use if plus will. In if clause, we can use will, but absolutely it is not correct, because you can use in type 1 all the present tenses apart from the future tense. You can use the future tenses only in the main clause part. But there's an exception. What is that? The exception is that you can use will with the if clause for request. If you're very kind and if you're making a kind request, you use if you will blah blah. For example, here it means if you will come this way, please come this way, and I'll show you the museum's most famous painting. You're very kind and you're making a kind request to the person you're talking to. What about type 2? In type 2, it's about the present part. You're talking about the untrue, incorrect, contrary to the fact, or imaginary situations about the present or future. And so, if you're imagining something, that means you use the past tenses like the past simple, past progressive, and past modal verbs. In the main clause, you use would or could. What's the difference between the two? Is that would is used for the general situations, could is used for the ability-based actions. For example, here's another rule. What is that? Whatever your subject pronoun is, you can't use. In American English you can use, but in British English you use were instead of was. For example, normally we would say if it was our day of today. If you're using American English, you can say if it was, but if you're using the British English, you have to say were. If she were, if I were, if it were, etc. And so in the second part we use would. And also here's an example of the past simple, and also again here we use the past simple. And so the difference here is that here is not ability, but here we're talking about an ability. In type 3 is about the past tenses, about the past, not past tenses. We use it for the untrue, incorrect, contrary to the fact actions in the past. And so you're making some guesses. How would it have happened? How would it have differed if something had happened in a different manner? And so we use the past perfect and the past perfect progressive tenses with if, and in the main clause we use the perfective modals like would have verb 3, could have verb 3, may have verb 3, or might have verb 3. And we say if the weather had been nice yesterday, we would have said, was the weather nice? No. And so did you sit in the garden? No. And so you're just imagining about the past. And you don't need to use if all the time. If has some siblings, what are they? The provided that, provided, or providing that, provided, as long as, so long as, on the condition that. And so as you see in this example, you can use before the conditions if, provided, provided, as long as, so long as, on the condition that structure. But keep in mind there's a rule, there's an exception. If you use as long as, so long as, and only if at the beginning of the sentence, you have to invert the second part. That means normally we have to write, you can pass the exam, but as only if, as long as, and so long as are used at the beginning of the sentence, we have to use can as an inverted sentence form. And so in the inverted sentences, we have to just invert the statement using the auxiliary verb at the beginning of the sentence, as in this example. Suppose that, or supposing that, this is, you're just imagining. He didn't cheat on you. He doesn't cheat on you. Suppose, or supposing that he cheated on you, how would you react? And unless means if not. That means to be able to use unless, the sentence must be positive. For example, here look at the example. Unless the economic situation improves. You can't say unless the economic situation doesn't improve. But if you use if, you use doesn't improve. And so if you want to turn a sentence with an if plus negative structure into unless, you have to omit the negativity and then you have to use the affirmative form. What if is the question, and what if something happens? You're just making some guesses, you're just imagining something happens or happened or had happened in the past or at present or in the future in the way it differs. And so if I were you, if you're giving advice to someone, you use these structures and you mostly just encounter them in daily colloquial expressions. And so if I were you, exchanges as well. If I were you, if I were in your shoes, or if I were in your position, we use them to give advice. For example, we can say if I were you, or if I were in your shoes, or if I were in your position, I would save some money for further expenses. We don't need to use if. We can just omit the use of if this way. And in type 1, if you want to omit if you don't want to use if, you can use should instead of if. And so you just omit the add in here. You don't say you don't use as is or is. Instead, you just use sent. And so in type 2, instead of if, you write verb, and then instead of the verb to, you write to plus verb 1. And for example, you can just, if you don't have any verbs, like if she were here, you can just say were she here. There's no need to add to be. And in type 3, you can use if plus we plus had verb 3 structure. Instead of that, you can use had instead of if. And then you write the subject pronoun and then write the verb 3 form. And that's all about the if clauses. And now I'm going to move on with the wish clauses, my dear students. And so let me move on. Wish clauses is a very brief topic that I like to talk about. And so wish means to want something, to desire something a lot. And so maybe you desire, you want something a lot, or you just want, and so on. And you can use it with the infinitive form wish to do. That's like want to do. Who do you want to see? Sir, I want to see the manager. That's the same meaning. Or you can just want someone else to do something. For example, I wanted the teacher to check my homework. Or I wish the teacher to check my homework, you can say. And also we have some expressions in English. Wish me good luck. Wish me bad luck, maybe. And I wish you a swift recovery. And I wish you a happy new year. So, and if you wish someone a noun, that means you wish someone to have the experience. And what about the wish and the if only structure? Let's see. You can make a wish about the present, you can make a wish about the past, or you can make a wish about the future. And so if you're making a wish about the present, if you want a present situation to be this way, to be the way it is, you use I wish plus subject plus verb to. For example, I don't know where he is. I wish I knew. Who wishes? I wish. And who wants to do the action? I. And so I take don't know and I make it into past simple. I say knew. What about the past? If you're making a wish about the past situation, if you want to change it, if you regret about it, you use I wish. And then comes the subject pronoun he. And then comes had plus verb 3 structure. I wish has the same meaning as if only, but it is more dramatic. Yeah. If only is more dramatic than I wish. And so you can use I wish or if only. And if you want to be more dramatic, you had better use if only instead of I wish. And if you want to make a wish about the future, you use would. But there's a rule, and the subject of the wish clause must be different from the subject of the main clause. What do I mean? If your subject is I, the wish clause's subject is I wish, but here it says you would. It is possible to use would, but if it were I wish you, I blah blah, you can't say I wish I would. It's not possible to use that way. Or you can say I wish she would. You see I and she, so they are different, so you can use would, but if it was like that, she wishes she would, it wouldn't be possible. And if you're talking about a complaint about the behavior, for example, you have a friend or you have a family member and that person is driving you crazy, and so you say I wish you would or I wish you wouldn't. And so if you want to make a complaint about the behavior, about especially an irritating behavior, you have to use would structure. I wish you'd stop telling lies. It's really irritating that way. And the wish clauses are like that. Thanks for watching. Take care.